and welcome to the latest episode of Staying Sane.
Hi.
I'm Jay, and my partner in crime, Hussein.
Hi, everyone.
So, we've got a few big stories this week. So, obviously, the biggest news is the death of Pope Francis yesterday, which
hmm
has upset a lot of people, Catholics mostly. The thing that I'm most interested in waiting to see is who the conclave elects next, because
hmm
Francis has expanded the number of cardinals and stacked the cardinal with reformers like himself. So it'll
hmm
be interesting to watch and see who they elect. So presumably there's going to be another reformer from the ranks of the men that Francis has elected. But there's always these conclaves can always be a little tricky. Like there's a lot of power politicking and backroom deals going on. If anybody's seen the movie Conclave, it's highly, highly accurate about
hmm
the jockeying for position and votes. As one faction rises or falls and votes switch back and forth. So you
hmm
never know what's going to happen. And oftentimes, as I document in my book on the history of the Catholic Church, oftentimes in a conclave, they expect that they're just going to elect what they call a caretaker pope, a pope
hmm
who's of an advanced elderly age who, is expected to only last a few years and isn't going to rock the boat.
hmm
And then, like that happened with Pope John back in like 1958 when he got elected, and then he ended up calling Vatican II. So the politics in the Curia are interesting. So it's gonna be an interesting next couple of weeks to see what happens in the conclave. So, any thoughts on this from your side?
Um, I'm not much aware of how this happens, the process of electing the new pope and all. But more than that, what I was mostly interested in was the some of the statements that we have seen. Even I had made one. That is something about Pope Francis being so much open to accepting scientific realities like acceptance of evolution and acknowledging the climate change and all. So, how do you see that? Like, what could be the reason, or how much among the Christian population is not much accepting evolution and all? Do you have an idea of that?
No, well, it's the Catholics, not so much. It's the American evangelical Christians who
Mm-hmm.
tend to be against evolution because they see it as
Mm-hmm.
um, counter to the biblical narrative of Genesis, because evangelicals are literal and inerrant. Like they take every single word of the Bible literally. Now,
Mm-hmm.
as the running joke, Catholics don't read the Bible. So it's mostly the American evangelicals who are against evolution. It's not so much an issue in the Christian community, or
Mm-hmm.
sorry, in the Catholic community. So there was, and I've documented in my book.
Mm-hmm.
I have documented instances where um, there has been opposition in the past
Mm-hmm.
to evolution. I believe it was Pius the 12th, the Pope
Mm-hmm.
who was, yeah, he was Pope during World War II, and shortly it was during it's I think there was, yeah, well, there were two encyclicals. One, yeah, okay, I'm trying to refresh my memory. One came out during World War II that
Mm-hmm.
basically opened the doors to scholarship. Said, we have all these modern scientific methods of textual criticism, of analysis, historical analysis. We should be using all of these tools at our that are available to Catholic scholars to use.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 4 years later, I think it was 47, 48, he issued um, another encyclical that basically slammed the door, because I guess when he opened the door, all of the modernist Catholic scholars went through it with great gusto, to the chagrin of all the traditionalists. So about 4 years later, Pius slammed the door again, and basically said any Catholic dogmatic formulations that incorporate evolution cannot contradict Genesis, that God has created man. And then so over the years. They, you know, like, I think Benedict, I can't remember if John Paul did anything with it, but Benedict and Francis certainly did
Mm,
open the door to evolution. But you know, yes, it's still part of God's creation, but God
mm.
created life on Earth and then it evolved. So they've found a way to dogmatically incorporate it.
So it's like um, for evolution to work, you have to create something which supports evolution. Like you must have a creator to evolve in a way that it supports evolution and it supports creation. It's like a blend of that. A hybrid hypothesis
Yeah,
could be.
yeah. And something I'm recalling. It's been a few months since I read it. Something about
Okay.
like
Uh-huh.
in the Pope Pius one, something about it cannot contradict not only Genesis, but it cannot contradict the teaching that humans have descended from Adam and Eve. So
Mm-hmm.
even more narrowly defined, that you cannot say that God created the earth in 7 days, but you cannot
Mm-hmm.
contradict the idea that we did not descend from Adam and Eve. Because original sin is tied, the Catholic dogma of original sin is tied directly to Adam
That's
and
a
Eve. So
cardinal, yeah,
yeah,
something cardinal to this belief, right?
yeah,
So it's not just about evolution. He even supported the climate change and those principles too. So
yeah,
why
yeah.
there's so
He's
much opposition from this Christian community?
well, there was one guy I saw a documentary.
Mm,
It was within the last 8 to 10 years. Um, and there was this like ultra conservative tradition. He was like the head of like this. It was like a lay. It wasn't a church. It was like a lay organization for
mm,
the Catholic parishioners. And he was the head of this ultra conservative Catholic organization. And he was beefing. They're like, why is Pope Francis talking about the environment and this and that? Like, what does this have to do with the Bible? And I'm like, what is it is anything that the Catholic Church has pronounced upon over the last 2,000 years got to do with what's in the Bible. Like there's lots of stuff they've just made up as they went along. Um, but the fact that, like it says in Genesis that we are the stewards of the earth. So of course we should be looking, we should be looking after the environment. Like these ultra conservative Catholics are just looking for any thread they can pull at. And it's ridiculous. It's utterly, utterly ridiculous. And I actually
mm,
in the documentary for this that I witnessed, so I found this guy's Twitter profile and I tagged him. I'm like, what kind of like, pedantic moron are you that you're whining about like this insignificant nonsense? So
mhm. And at the same time, there's a criticism against this pope. That is, though he was so much vocal about what's going on in Israel, Palestine, he was totally almost silent on the Christians who were getting persecuted in
well,
mostly in
I
Nigeria and all. So,
well, I mean, he can't be on top of everything, right? Like, I mean, like there's so much crap going on everywhere. I did see on the BBC coverage of the Pope's death, I did see a headline that said he called the Gazan Christians every day,
mm,
and
mm,
was in touch with them. So yeah, I mean, he's got an entire bureaucracy at his disposal. If he personally didn't have his thumb on what was going on in Nigeria, certainly
mm,
he had someone in his papal administration who was keeping an eye on things. Whether it was to the degree that people being persecuted there would like, probably not. But
mm.
you know,
But the matter of fact is, like the persecution or the Christians getting killed. It's not just about persecution. uh, it's like almost there's a report that came very lately that says almost 12 Christians getting killed for their faith each day. That's the rough estimate that they have made, and that they're also saying that it could be even more. And most of that happens in Africa and in Asia.
Muslim,
That's what
yeah,
it says. So it's not a trivial issue. So religious persecution, especially from the Islamic radicals like the Boko Haram, then JNIM, and there are multiple organizations which is carrying out such attacks. Even last episode, we talked about one attack that happened in Nigeria where almost 50 people, around something that number, that they got killed. And it's not for the first time. It's happening over and over. So um, and when Pope is the head of this Christian community, especially though he's from the Roman Catholics, but still he's supposed to comment over that. Like, at least they are the Christians.
Well, I'm
So
sure he has at some point in the past, but I mean,
mm,
don't forget, I mean, the Vatican, while it is a city state, it doesn't have an army. You know, it can't really impose sanctions on other countries like the US is doing. But I mean, they do have UN observer status, so they
mm,
can raise the issue with like
but
the human rights committees and
right. But that's right. But the real issue is this: like when we have a very vocal mechanism to address what is going on in Palestine, issuing arrest warrant and everything, there's a blind eye towards what's going on in this continent, especially the African continent. So there's no such UN call for ending this violence. There's no focus on how this is happening over there to end that or to intervene from the international community. There's no call of action in the UN where some special meeting is held. So just imagine it's like almost 12 Christians getting killed each day. That is the exact number or the reported number that we can cite now. So that's not something small. And there was another report that came in 2023 or so that was a French study, and as part of that, we can see it's like almost 1,700 plus people are getting killed each month. That means 50 plus people are getting killed each day out of Islamic terror. That is the reality of this world. And if you minus this 12 people, 12 Christians from that, you can imagine the magnitude of or what percentage of the total people getting killed each day is the Christian. So I'm not saying that Pope couldn't solve everything, but at least now on, I think there should be a concerted effort from this part of the believers to do something to address this, to invite the public attention towards this, to end this Islamic terror persecution, especially from the Islamic terror. So that's what I was
yeah,
mentioning
I
about. Yeah.
concur. But that's going to take a coordinated multinational effort, probably directed by
Right.
the
Right.
UN, to put a lot of pressure on these countries, on the governments to crack down on these sorts of violent acts within their countries. So, I mean, the Vatican can't
Hmm.
do it on its own. I mean, you know, it has some moral authority, not that it doesn't have much left, but it
Hmm.
does still have a little bit of moral authority to try to encourage other nation states to do what
Anyway,
they can. Yeah.
anyway, whoever comes to that position will be more powerful than any normal bishop or any normal priest in a church in any city. So that's not Vatican City. So that's entirely different, and it has a relevance in that way. So of course, we speak about religion and atheism and all, but still, when people get persecuted for their belief, that has to be addressed. That's what I was trying to say, trying to convey that. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. So, anything else from that part?
Yeah. Not from that part, but going back to Gaza. So last
Mm-hmm.
week I mentioned the attack on the ambulance that killed where the
Mm-hmm.
Israelis
Yeah. Mm.
killed 15 medics and buried them and the bodies to hide them in the desert. Well, this week the report came out from the IDF indicating professional failures
Mm-hmm.
and then operational misunderstandings, which is bullshit speak for we're not going to admit that we fucked up, but we fucked up. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like using this kind of loaded words like professional failures. Like, okay, how about you just call a spade a spade? Your
Mm-hmm.
guys executed medics and they're weasel wording their way out of this, or they're trying to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something which we have to despise. We have to call out and everything. There's no excuse on that. But at the same time, we have to appreciate the accountability that they have shown because they didn't just shun away that. Like multiple times, we have seen people exposing how the Hamas was doing things in their own way, taking false pictures, spreading false information, and doing all nasty things, and even they firing on their own people and doing all this. And forget about that. How many times we have seen the international community calling out this Hamas for attacking the civilians on October 7th and taking them as the hostages and still bargaining with the even with their dead bodies. And what we saw with the Bibas family, where two children were strangulated to death, And even after seeing all these things, we didn't see anyone issuing a death, any arrest warrant towards the Hamas leaders, or we are not seeing that. So forget about seeing that part of an action, or a what do you say, an authoritarian action against them. Other than that, there's no sign of acceptance of this accountability from this Hamas, that something that they have done wrong. That's not an excuse. They can
Well,
wage
they're
their, for whatever reason, they can wage their freedom fight. We, for time being,
well,
we agree to that. But at the same time, they are committing war crimes from day one, October 7th
sure.
onwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And they have, but in the minds of the Hamas commanders, they probably see it and justify it as a holy crusade. That
Yeah.
they're so. But that doesn't make it right, obviously. But that's probably why they haven't apologized, because in their minds they haven't done anything wrong. They're on a jihad for their survival and for the flourishing of their people. So I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't make it right, but that's probably why they're not apologizing. People
Yeah.
who think they're in the right, why would they need to apologize?
It's not apology that we are expecting. It's all about accountability. This happens during a wartime. Like, there will be some errors happening always. So accepting the
Well,
mistake, accountability.
well,
That's the most important thing.
as as I mentioned weeks and weeks ago, probably
Mhm.
in one of our very first episodes, there was, and I think I first heard this. I cannot remember the name of the podcast. It's an American Jewish secular podcast, and they were speculating that Hamas did this deliberately. So why would they need accountability? They did it because they knew that Israel's reaction would be so over the top and so violent and calculated that the rest of the world would stand up in outrage, which is exactly what happened. So
Mm.
there, the Hamas made a very calculated move to get Israel to overplay its hand and end up in the situation it's in. So what's there to be accountable for? They got the result that they were aiming for.
But still, the hostages are with them. They are not released. So even this, the whole October 7th was totally unprovoked. So they are expecting that that can happen any time, and for that, Hamas should be disbanded. And these are the main ideals that they have put forward as the success points for this war to end.
Okay, but let
So,
me point out one other fact that I've highlighted before.
mm,
Where was the IDF on October 7th? Where was the IDF? They were in the West Bank protecting illegal settlements. They
mhm,
weren't, where the attacks were taking place because they were too busy guarding illegal settlements. So,
so they can attack civilians, and we have to
no,
accept
I'm
that.
saying Israel was completely unprepared because instead of protecting their own people and their borders with Gaza, they are protecting illegal settlements. And not only protecting illegal settlements, but bullying the Palestinians. There have been
What do
countless
you mean by
reports
these
of
illegal
the settlers.
settlements? That's
Oh,
one thing that
oh,
I wish to say.
oh,
Yeah,
you know
illegal
exactly what
settlements.
I'm talking.
No, no,
You know
illegal
exactly.
settlements.
Don't play dumb.
No, no, no. Illegal settlements means.
The settlements in the West Bank are illegal under international law. This is
Mhm.
Palestinian territory, and the Israeli government under Netanyahu and his predecessors have been steadily increasing their territory. They've been stealing land from
So,
the Palestinians and setting up illegal gated compounds of Israelis. And the
so
IDF
do
is
you?
there guarding them.
So, so do you agree that when West Bank was demarcated as a Palestinian Authority, that place, uh, do you agree that there remained Jews in that area, or that that was completely devoid of Jews?
I
Hundred
don't know.
percent.
I don't
Yeah, there
have
were
those
Jews.
stats.
Jews
I'm
were
sure
living
there
there.
were.
Jews were living there, and
But I'm not
it was
talking about the ones who are living there. I'm talking about the
no,
new
no.
settlements
What
that
I'm
have
saying,
been created that are
what? Yeah,
against international law.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there were Jews already living in West Bank when this was demarcated. That's one thing. And apart from that, there was always a threat against these Jews from the locals. Have you seen a picture where the West Bank Palestinians having blood on their hands and showing that as some success and victory and all? Have you seen that?
Dude, you think this stuff isn't going on the Israeli side? You
No,
think the
that's not
Israelis
going.
haven't
That's
met?
not
You
going.
think, oh,
That,
bullshit. Bullshit.
that's not going on there.
That is an
That's
argument
not.
from ignorance.
That's not
It's an
going on
argument
there.
from ignorance. No,
You can
no,
you can
honestly,
even you
Shit
can
argument from ignorance.
you
There
have
has
two
been
options. You have two
numerous,
options. You
numerous
have two
accounts of
options.
Israeli
You,
atrocities against Palestinians. There was
no,
a
no, no, no.
bombing in
You have two
Hebron at
options.
the
You
Cave
have
of the
two options.
Patriarchs.
You
There
have two
was a
options.
bombing, an
One,
Israeli bombing of the Cave of the
you
Patriarchs. They have
you have two
deliberately
options.
provoked the Cave of the Patriarchs.
No, you
So
have
don't
two
tell me that it
options.
hasn't been going on because it has.
No, no,
It
no, no.
has.
I
It
cannot
has
agree
been
to
going
that
on.
more. I cannot agree to that because you have two options
With it.
to verify that. That is, one is you can search for the images where they have this blood on their hands and showing that. What is it? I
Where are the
have killed a Jew.
images
That's
of
what it
blood?
is. I have
Where are
killed
the
a Jew,
images of the Israelis with
and
blood on their
and
hands?
and they are saying this. I have killed a Jew, and that's not Hamas soldier or any soldier who is present as a person who is protecting the Gazans or the West Bankians. They are common civilians in those areas. They are having this blood on their hands and showing that off. That's one thing you can verify virtually. And for the second option is that you can physically go there and see this. You can see
Dude,
this.
I'm
It
not
is already
disputing
there.
that the Palestinians didn't do that. I'm asking you to
This
acknowledge that there's blood
this
on
is
Israeli hands
being
too.
this no, I'm saying
There
blood it
is.
not in a literary sense. I'm saying in a what do you say, this is what exactly it is. It's too much objective. You can see with your eyes. That's what I'm saying. So this is there. Okay, and second thing is, if you go to Israel, or maybe I have been to that place. That's one reason why I'm so much speaking with conviction in this matter. That is the exact reason. So, is Jews were already present in this West Bank when that was demarcated as a place. So they have the right to stay there, and when their life was always at stake, and they were getting killed and persecuted in Jews getting persecuted in that land, it's the right or it's the duty of the Israelis to their official body. It's not like Israeli civilians are going there and defending them. They are supported by their IDF. And you can even learn one more thing, that the West Bank, the police over there, and the IDF, they conjointly keep the peace in that region, and that's being requested even by the Fatah party who is ruling there, the Mahmoud Abbas and the team. So it's like it's happening over there, and it's a concerted effort of both the parties to keep the peace over there. And very recently, last week when we were having this episode, I just forgot to mention that there was a great mall getting inaugurated in Ramallah, and that was facing a lot of flake online from the local people and people all over the world. And what's the reason? Because in the same place, Palestinian Authority in Gaza, you cannot just go past the rumbles over there, how the devastation is happened over there, and at the same time in West Bank, people are rejoicing, they are enjoying and everything. So two things which we should recollect here is that before October 7th, Gaza was just like what you see as West Bank today. It was exactly the same. So, for what reason? For what is the provocation for going for an October 7th?
I
You cannot
told you.
just blame on illegal
They were
settlements and other
trying
things.
there's it's not just this podcast. Like there was even military analysts
Mhm.
who speculated that the whole point was a calculated attack that would be so atrocious that it would not force Israel, but they knew Israel would
Of
react
course,
the way they did.
Israel is bound to protect its civilians. They will do
Yeah,
it.
it
It's not just
protected
about Israel.
citizens.
You just
Dude,
imagine
that's
what
not
India
the
would
point.
do.
That is not the point. The point is not that Israel would respect its or would protect its citizens. It's the point that Israel would overreact, that it would commit
How is this
war crimes.
overreaction?
It is
How's this
what Israel's doing.
overreaction?
They killed tens of
What's the
thousands of
death
people
count of the
in
people who got
hospitals.
killed in
It's
Gaza?
something like
They are not even able to produce a real number on that. They produce one number. They are revising the number over and over, and and what we are expecting is to include more people into the list. No, that's not
dude,
happening. They are reducing the
both sides
number.
are lying. Both
That's
sides are
entirely
lying.
different.
Both sides are lying about things that are going on.
Both
So
sides are lying. Okay,
yeah,
okay. So you agree that
you
one side is even Hamas is lying.
you think the Israeli, of course Hamas is lying. You think Israel's not
Okay.
fucking lying? Okay, here's a quote from I pulled it up on the report, this IDF report of the professional failings. Here's a report from an Israeli group. secular group, humanist group, says, in a word, cover up. That's how they're describing the IDF report of this
Okay, so
massacre
you
of
are
Palestinian
saying that
medics.
Israel is hiding the. What are
Of
the
course they
areas in
are.
which Israel is lying?
Why weren't they lying? It'd be more accurate.
Like, for example, some areas where they are lying, maybe
Well,
to
they've been
cite as an
lying about what?
example.
Well, I mean, we don't know all the details. Like both sides are lying about, oh, we fired on
But
them, they fired on us.
I can clearly say where Hamas is
No,
lying.
you can't.
They're lying about human shield. They're lying about their military presence under buildings. They say that they don't have that, but we have seen how it is operational. They lie about humanitarian aid being stopped by Israel, but at the same time they are stealing it from the people, their own people. These are just three examples. If you one more, I can say, but I'm asking you, just tell one lie where Israel is saying.
Well, they've certainly lied about the massacre of these medics. That's one.
Which one? They
The
accepted it.
medics.
That's what we mentioned now.
It's
That
a
they accept the
cover-up.
mistake, and
Oh,
so they didn't lie.
professional failure.
They didn't lie. They went with
They're
the
covered.
investigation and they concluded the
These,
investigation and they fired
it's a
those IDF
cover-up.
soldiers.
It's a
That's how
cover-up.
accountability works. That's
Dude,
how
it's a
accountability
total
works.
cover-up. It's a total cover-up. They
That's
murdered.
accountability works.
They murdered
Okay.
15 medics, and they slapped the guy on the wrist. He got
Okay.
fired. Was even
So
put in
so
jail.
so
Put in jail.
so you are citing as one incident as a lie. Okay. And
Commander
before
got
that, any
fired.
yeah. So before that incident, any lies?
Oh, dude, what's wrong with you? Are you seriously playing this? You're smarter than this.
I think
You're just,
we should address
dude,
this elephant in the room.
you,
That's what
no,
I'm saying.
dude, you are deliberately playing dumb, and I know you're smart.
Of course. I'll be a diehard supporter of Israel for until I am convinced. That's
Okay,
what I'm saying. I'm not convinced.
I support Israel's right to exist. I do not support what they have been doing to the
And
Palestinians
to sum
for
up, I can say this
generations.
way. To sum up, I can say why I support Israel, because the moment or the day the Israel was formed on 1948, what happened was, on one side, the Jerusalem Mufti, who was in charge of the religious affairs and all, he was constantly airing through the radio to kill the Jew who you see besides you, and that was repeatedly done multiple times a day. That was the thing what we can see. And at the same time, what was going on on the Israeli side is to protect the Arabs. Jews were not called by their leaders to kill the Arab that you see. That's not what we saw. And also, this same Jerusalem Mufti, he's the only person from that region who represented the Arabs, not Palestinians, represented the Arabs, visiting Hitler to help him kill the Jews. And we know what Hitler did. And this same Jerusalem Mufti was about to build a concentration camp like a facility in the desert to kill the Jews. So I cannot agree more than that. I cannot stand with the Arabs at this point. And what I'm also seeing now is the other Arab world, other Arab countries like the UAE, the Morocco, and other countries except Iran, they are correcting their mistake. They are now focusing on building the relation, and just with one clause that they are doing, because they know how much engraved is this anti-Semitism as part of the Islamic belief into this Arab culture. This is something which is running deep in them. Even I have prayed against Jews even before seeing a Jew
And
in
that
every
needs to be
Friday
corrected.
prayer, and it is even going on today. Today is Tuesday. You can come or you can visit any Muslim mosque, masjid, on any Fridays. You can hear how the prayers are going on there. Allahumma aizzal Islam wal Muslimin, and that goes on. And at the end, what they're saying is, kill the Jews, humiliate the apostates, humiliates the infidels. These are the things which is being prayed in every Muslim
And
mosque.
that
And this
needs to change.
anti-Semitism is something which is ingrained. And even in the Hamas charter, you can even see this on their first paragraph. Israel will be eliminated, or they have used a word that way. Just like Islam has annihilated others before it, this is what they have mentioned in it. So what does this mean? This is anti-Semitism. Institutionalized, no, religiously followed in
And it needs to
anti-Semitism.
be fixed. But as I've pointed out in the past, there are students in Israel being indoctrinated to kill Palestinians and to equate them with the Amalek, because in the Hebrew Bible, there is one of the 613 mitzvot that they are to exterminate the Amalek. It's in the Bible.
Can you show any normal living secular Jew calling for
I'm not
the
talking about
death
the secular Jew.
death?
I am not talking about the secular
But
Jews.
I'm
I'm
talking
talking
about
about the
normal
Orthodox
Gazan
Jews.
citizen. But I'm
I'm
talking
talking
about
the
normal Gazan
Orthodox.
citizen. You
Yeah,
can you
and
can pick any random normal Gazan citizen and ask him whether to kill a Jew or not. He will say yes. That's what I'm saying. So
I
that's the
wouldn't say
difference.
all of them. I'm sure there are some Gazans who want peace
Some
and hate
Gazans,
the Israelis.
only some
Not all of them.
Israelis will say this, but majority Gazans will say the opposite. That's what I'm saying. That's the difference. We should weigh the magnitude. We should compare the magnitude. That's
Well,
entirely different.
yes, but dude, you have yet to admit that the Israelis are not causing part of the problem with the way they've handled the entire situation from the beginning. That Israel
From
bears some
beginning,
response.
from which
I
year?
mean, really, right back to the start with the start of with
Which year?
Herzog or whatever. Herzog, I don't know, like back whenever the Zionist plan first came out with
Hmm.
the founder of the Zionist cause.
So,
Um, that
what
was
led to
dismissive.
that movement? What led to Herschel to
Don't
formulate the
don't
Zionist movement? Can we
let's
discuss on that?
no, that's not the topic we're discussing. The
Yeah.
point
So
is
if
that
because that's
Israel,
what I'm saying. If
the
we go back to
Israelis,
history, we
dude,
have to go entirely back to history. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
We cannot just conveniently stop somewhere.
okay, fair enough. But where is your condemnation for the misdeeds that Israel has done? Why are you so sycophantically supporting everything they do without
No,
condemning the
I didn't.
atrocities
I'm
they
not
have
supporting
committed?
that way. I'm just weighing in what is going wrong. Where is it going wrong? And
It's
then
going wrong everywhere.
I'm
Everywhere it's
and
going
then I
wrong.
am and then I am making my statements. I'm not just blindly supporting that. No, that's not it. That's not the way.
Uh,
But
I
what
don't
we
see
are
you
seeing on
I
the
don't
other
see
side,
you I don't see you criticizing Israel for murdering 15 medics, and they slap and he goes to jail. They fire the commander
absolutely,
with a slap on the wrist.
that's something
I do
very
not
much
see your outrage.
outrageous, something which has to be condemned to the core. They have,
So where's the
because with all the
condemnation?
facilities, if they
You're
if they have
justified with
if they
that.
are saying that they had vision problem while seeing them, then that's the biggest failure from the part of the IDF, because with all these heavy modern equipments, they lacked vision in identifying Hamas and medics. That's a very
You
much
think they don't have top of the
something
line
failure.
night vision gear?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
give
what
me
I'm
a break.
saying. That's what I'm saying. That's a
Okay.
failure.
I want to
But
see a clear
they
condemnation
are
from you.
showing accountability for their mistakes that we should accept.
They slapped a commander on the wrist. Nobody went to jail. I want to see a clear condemnation from you,
Let's wait for that.
not you whitewashing it for them. I
It's
want
not
you to
whitewashing.
say
We are accepting the.
you're
It's
accepting
like we
somebody
are
who
accepting
got fired and nobody went to
the
jail.
accountability that they are shown, and
Where's the
that's something which
accountability
we
when
should value
nobody
at
has
the time
gone
of
to
a
jail?
war.
15 people were murdered and their bodies hidden in the desert. Where is your outrage? Nobody
That's
has gone to jail.
entirely bad. That's entirely outrageous. That's already stated here. But I'm also saying the accountability that they have shown should be appreciated.
What
That's what I'm saying.
accountability? They did a
No, for the
whitewash cover up
mistakes,
and they
for the mistakes,
you think you can
because
fire
we
a
are not
commander
seeing
for
from
the
this
murder of 15 people.
from the other side. That's the main
Dude,
reason why I'm saying
you
this.
think firing a commander for the murder of
Mhm.
15 medics is suing accountability. Dude, I that is just a load of horseshit. That's
He should
complete
be
horseshit.
persecuted for that. He should be prosecuted for that. Let's
He
wait
is.
for that.
He's been cleared.
Last episode we mentioned that we have to wait until the investigation is over. Now I'm saying let them complete the procedure. Why should we be so much hasty in this? Because we have multiple things going
Why
on at the
haven't they been
same time.
arrested? Why has
Sorry,
he no one been arrested?
they have been
You understand?
suspended. They have been
Yeah,
suspended.
been suspended. Who's been arrested?
That's the
15
first
people were
action.
murdered. Who's been
That's the
arrested?
first stage. That's how a democratic society functions. Like, you are not just seeing a problem and you're just shooting them away. That's not the way. Let's wait for the procedure to complete. Isn't that the right way? Let's wait for
And,
that.
and are you seriously telling me that what the IDF is going to come out with is going to be the complete truth and not going to be another
Let's wait
whitewashed
for that.
version.
Let's wait for. I'm not
Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath.
I'm not putting something into their mouth. Let's wait for that.
I I am
So
not
far,
going to
what
hold
we
my
have
breath.
seen, so far what we have seen is the accountability, and I appreciate that. That's it.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to
Okay.
hold my breath that their final report is going to be anywhere near the truth or hold anybody
Okay.
remotely accountable for this. So
People are commenting that these atheists cannot even agree amongst themselves. But I'm
well,
saying to
we're
that
not
person,
doing
Top G,
this.
we are just talking. We are not throwing bombs,
Yeah,
and we are
we're
not
not
throwing.
we're not dogmatists. We don't have to agree with each other because it's the party
he's
line. We
he's
are free to
yeah, Shia
disagree with each
Jason and Sunni Arif.
other.
So we are not Sunni and Shia. So please cool down. This is how
Yeah,
democratic discourses continue, and this is how we
yeah.
can come to
I'm not angry.
consensus regarding
I'm not
matters. So
angry. I'm just
you need not
passionate.
be worried about that.
I'm just very, very passionate about this topic. I'm not angry, but
Definitely.
I'm angry that the Palestinians have been getting the short end of the
My
stick
pa-
for
why I'm
generations.
being so much passionate in this is because the same fact which I mentioned already. Because I was an anti-Semite from my childhood, just for the reason why a Hamas or a Gazan is anti-Semite. The reason is same. I'm not from Gaza, but still I was an anti-Semite just for the one reason. Even
Okay.
without the Palestinian issue, I would have killed a Jew. That's how I
So
was brought
you're
up,
so
and
you're
it's
trying to
like
compensate for what you did in your past.
no, no. It's
You're
I know the
overcompensating.
reasons. I know the reasons why what is going on in Gaza. I know the reason. It's not geography. It is a religion sponsored anti-Semitism. We have to fight that. We have to call that a spade. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So, I
Okay,
mean, we
so
we had different, formative years. Like I grew up, I had Jewish neighbors, I had Jewish friends, I had Muslim friends, I had Indian friends. Like I remember when I was like 5 years old, my neighbor was was I think they were Sikh immigrants, and they lived in the house next door. Their kid was in the same class, and so we were always friends. Like I grew up in a multicultural society, so I always grew up with people from other faiths and other cultures. So, it was never when you grew up in Canada, like it's not I mean, I'm sure it is an issue for some of these immigrant communities, like they're feeling it, but the kids who are growing up in it, we grew up in this multicultural society, so we're used to being around people from, and we appreciate it. Like the city I grew up in every year has like an ethnic culture fest where you can, for 1 week every year, like all the people come together and you celebrate their food and their clothing and their music and their traditions. And it's fun. It's like it's one of my most fondest memories of childhood, of going to these kind of events. So
even in India, we had such a beautiful past, but after 1980s, especially after we gained much exposure to the Middle East, the Wahhabism and other things, we exported this extreme Islam to our country. And even before, we had a past where the Muslim invaders they had done multiple nasty things in the northern part of our country, and that's so much. Uh, it's totally a chaos which we always mention as part of our history, that is desecration of temples,
history
many
is
other
messy.
things. Yeah,
History is
so
well, I mean,
so
well,
so
do you know
that
why the
so
Serbs? Do you know why the Serbs and Croatians hate each other? Because like in 1200, the Croatians beat the Serbs in some battle, and they're still pissed off about it. 800 years later, they're still holding it against each other. Like, fucking move
yeah, but
on.
for us the problem is this Islamism, and their threat is still ongoing. That's the issue. So
Yeah.
we have multiple issues all over the world. We have issues for different reasons, even with the communists and many other people we have. But there was always an end point to that. But for this Islamism and the threat posed by Islamism, it's still ongoing. It's
Okay.
and you are not
Hey,
seeing any signs
you're
of, yeah. Sorry.
you're right. But my point is Israel is not helping the situation with their actions. They have been so
Anyway,
heavy-handed in their reaction. They are not helping themselves.
anyway,
They are
on
not.
till October 7th, Israel was helping. I would agree, and you would agree. You will have to agree that. On October 7th, was Israel helping a normalization of the issues?
Not if you read what Netanyahu's been doing, I would say no. I'm sure the secular Israelis were. The Peace
If
Now
they
and other
if they
stuff that
had to attack on October 7th, 2023, they could have done it in 2022 also, but they hadn't done that.
like I said, both sides are
Okay.
lying. Like that's just the
No,
nature of politics and
October
warfare.
7th is
Both
not
sides are
not a
lying.
lie. October
No,
7th is
I'm
not a
saying
lie.
both sides are lying
The
about.
Operation Al-Aqsa flood is not a lie. So they
That's
even
not
mentioned that
my
they will
point.
repeat it. That's not a
That's
lie.
not my
They spoke
point.
that on live TV. That's not a lie. So we cannot say
That's
everything
not the
on this
point
lie
I'm
card.
making.
That won't work anymore.
That's not the point. I'm not saying they're lying about like what happened, like the events. I'm saying both sides before October 7th,
So
on October 7th,
this
and after,
equivocation,
both
I
sides are
won't agree
lying.
to that. Okay, if you say on April 22nd, 2025, this both side, okay, people may agree to that. But I'm asking you, on October 7th, which side is lying? On which side you will find the reason, the problematic reason, or the problem maker?
Obviously, Hamas is the one who
Okay,
launched an
so
outrageous
let's
attack.
start from there.
But
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not
At
denying
least
that they're
let's
lying
start
about
from
that.
there. I'm not asking you to go back to 1948 to or to the Roman period or Byzantine period, or the Ottoman period or um, British Mandate period. Or I'm not asking that. I'm just asking you. Let's start from October 7th at least. Then only we will find a reason. That's what
Okay,
I'm saying.
and that's what I'm saying. Hamas has been lying about things that they have done. Israel has been lying about things that they have done in
Hmm,
response.
okay.
Like
So
there have been attacks on both sides, and both sides have lied about what they've done. That's just the
mhm.
nature of the
Anyway,
covert
with
action of warfare.
the biggest lie that I count here is the about the number of the deaths that has been caused in Gaza, and that
Well,
lie was made by Gaza, Hamas, and they are still trying to make up the list of the deaths, and they are not adding the
you,
number; they are
well, you have to
subtracting
fog
the
a
number.
board too.
So let them complete the number, then I will comment over that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
don't you've got
let's
you've
move on.
fog of war going on. So,
So let's move on.
uh, well, I think we've covered all our topics. And is there any other
Almost.
news that from your end that you want to talk
Just one more that I wish to, because I had taken it here, and it's about the Afghanis being expelled from Pakistan.
Oh,
Oh,
yes. Yeah, I saw that.
yes, yeah. There's a mass exodus that is happening in Pakistan again. Last time we mentioned it almost a year ago, I think, and that was almost 20 million or something people moving out of
Yeah.
Pakistan. This time it's like within a few days, since April, 100,000 Afghans they have left Pakistan, and even more are there waiting to leave Pakistan. And the main reason is that they are mostly terrorists and criminals. That's how Pakistanis, their authorities, label Afghanis criminals and
Because
terrorists,
they don't want to
including
deal with they don't want to deal with the
children,
injustice.
including the women, including the elders, and everyone.
Yeah.
They are just grouping every Afghani as a terrorist, and no outcry around the world. So when it comes to Muslim versus Muslim, all these are permitted. That's what I'm saying.
No,
Anyway,
it was an outrageous story. I was reading the article. Like
yeah.
one guy, like he said, I was born and raised in Pakistan. I've lived my whole life here. My children were born here, and they're deporting me.
Hmm.
And it was
Yeah.
tragic. It's
It's
heartbreaking.
tragic, absolutely it's tragic. Because especially when the condition in Afghanistan, we all know what is going on there, except for the Muslims. That's what I'm saying. No Muslim will ever comment over this situation in Afghanistan and how the people are living there, how they are treated there, and the plight of the normal citizens in Afghanistan. But still, uh, they cannot comment on this. They will just stand by Pakistan in this. Almost
Yeah.
all of Pakistanis will be
It,
saying
it's
or staying along with that.
yeah, it is a humanitarian tragedy.
It's a
So
crisis, yeah, yeah. So this is
yeah.
something which I just wish to add on to this.
Yeah, yeah. I've forgotten, but I because it's been a few days since I saw that article. But yeah, it was.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a huge, huge number of people that are being deported, and I don't
yeah.
know how they're going to
Any,
survive. Like, what are they supposed to go back to? Like the Taliban
yeah.
aren't going to take them in, and they're not going to provide for
Anyway, they have come to a consensus regarding the hostility between Pakistan and Afghanistan. They are now rebooting the diplomatic channel to have some dialogues and to find a solution to this rather than deporting people like this. So maybe that works in the future, in the very near future. We hope that so that people will find some peace in either of these countries. So let's
yeah,
hope for the best.
yeah, yeah. It was. I'm glad you brought that up. I'd forgotten about that story, but it's definitely something we should be highlighting.
Yep.
So,
Yes. Yeah.
oh,
Anyway.
yeah, tragic, tragic story. So. Anyway, we've been asked by our viewers in the past. They wanted to see you and I sparring a little bit more, and I think we gave them their money's worth tonight. So
Yes, I think it's not too much.
yeah, let me just in the chat here.
A few
On
minutes that I've seen.
um, I'm just going to quickly pop in the video. I did a video today on the contradictions in Pope Francis's papacy. I'm just going to pop the
Mm-mm.
link here into the chat
Yeah,
for people who might
almost
want to.
100 people have joined on our video from my
Yes,
Twitter channel. So thank you so much for joining. And I think we can continue this on our channel on every Tuesdays. That's what we plan, the same time. So, and we'll be sharing the same to the AAI channel too. So this will be streamed on YouTube, AAI YouTube. You can follow us there. So let's move together to make some sense in this world. That's what we are trying to do. And you will see some discussions, some heated debates, and all such things. So just bear with us. Like this is how we can find a consensus, a mutual point where we will be moving forward for the common goals that we have set. That is a peace. That's a harmony which prevails. A end of war. People living in happier conditions. So we are hoping for the best. Let's
Yeah.
work for that together. So please follow us on our YouTube channel, Twitter, and Facebook, and everywhere, so that you will be in touch and you can join us for some of the dialogues in the future. We will be hosting some episodes for even you, for that, so that you can join, and maybe we can plan that way as well. So thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll see everybody next week, and I hope you enjoyed our little session. It got a little heated, but you know, these are touchy topics, so they need to be discussed. So,
Yeah.
I was they're asking, will we take callers? I don't know. That
Next.
that could be kind of dangerous if we took callers.
We can
We
take
could,
them,
we
no problem. We
yeah,
can even try that. Maybe in the future we'll try.
yeah.
So I think I can handle that from my side because I have the equipments here. So we can even
Okay.
give you a number, or you can even we can let you join by the link on this platform. Anyway,
It
we'll
it might be it
try.
might be easier just to take questions that we can put up on screen
Anyway,
rather
anyway,
than yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
We'll see everybody next week, and thanks
okay.
for watching.
Take care.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye
Good
bye.
night.
Good
Bye.
night.